to Little Minds, Big Talks, where little kids have big conversations. I'm Avisa, and my pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Glenn, and my pronouns are he, him. We have been discussing gender identity this month.
Remember, gender identity isn't about what we look like. It is about how we feel on the inside and who we feel we truly are.
And it is important to be respectful of all people's choices, no matter what.
That's right. Last week we discussed things like pronouns, social constructs, and non-binary. So today we have a non-binary second grader with us.
Thank you so much for coming to our class today, Magnus. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and your preferred pronouns?
My pronouns are they, them. I'm in second grade.
Who did you bring with you today?
I bring my mom named Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan, and my pronouns are she, her.
What does gender identity mean to you?
It means how I feel on the inside.
Can you share with us how you decided to be they, them instead of he, him, or she, her?
I don't know how I decided.
I remember when Magnus first told us who they really are. And Magnus, do you remember? It was when you were in kindergarten?
Yeah.
And one night at bedtime, Magnus, we were about to turn out the lights, and Magnus said, I want you to use she, her for me. I'm a girl. And I said, thank you for telling me who you are. And I said, do you want me to tell everyone who you are? Are you ready to tell your class? And Magnus said, yes. And that was the first time Magnus told us who they were. And then Magnus, do you want to tell them when you decided or you realized who you really were was they, them?
Yeah. I was on a trip to Hawaii.
You remember we were leaving the beach?
Yeah.
We had packed up our stuff, and you turned to me and you said, my pronouns are they, them, she, her, and he, him. That was in first grade. And I said, thank you so much for telling me. And then, maybe a few months later, you said, my pronouns are they, them.
What advice would you give to other kids who might be exploring their gender identity?
You don't have to think what others think.
It matters who you are. If you're deciding if you want to change, then if you feel like doing it, then just do it. Kids might be mean to you, but I mean, who cares? Because it's who you are. You should just be true to yourself.
I have a question for Glenn and Avisa and Magnus, because I think this applies to everyone. Do you feel like it takes courage to be yourself sometimes?
If there's a lot of kids in your class that like this thing and don't like this other thing, but you like that thing, then it'd be way harder to fit in, and you might just, act like you like the thing even though you don't. Because everybody else likes it, you want to fit in. But, you should really just, be yourself. And of course, kids are going to be mean to you because some just are. And maybe one would be nice to you. But if all of them are mean, you're doing what you like. So just, keep on doing what you like because it's what you like. Yeah.
You're right. It's important to have those safe spaces where you can be yourself and no one's saying anything about it.
Yeah. Have you ever faced any challenges because of your gender identity?
Yes. Usually at my school, a lot of people still use he, him.
Yeah. Because somebody in our class uses they, them, and so we want to respect them because, it's who they are. So.
I guess you could ask your teachers for support.
If you could just tell a teacher that you've been asking them a lot. Because first, you ask them to use pronouns. If they keep not doing it, it's not like they're forgetting because they're doing it over and over again. So then you could go to a trusted adult, probably a teacher or a staff member, and be like, hey, I've been asking them nicely to use my pronouns over and over again, and they still aren't using mine.
Magnus, have you ever had challenges with which bathrooms you could use at school?
Yeah.
You want to tell us more about that?
Yes. Once when I went to the girls' bathroom, all the kids in the girls' bathroom made fun of me.
Yeah, it's like you can decide to go to either bathroom.
Are there any special activities or things you like to do that makes you feel comfortable and confident in your gender identity?
Yes, wearing a dress makes me feel good.
That's nice.
I remember last summer, Magnus went to Camp Indigo, which is this really cool camp for transgender and non-binary youth. And there was a fancy day. Do you want to tell them about what you wore for fancy day that made you feel really good?
Yes, I wore a big dress, a pearl necklace, and a top hat.
There was a lot of twirling that day.
Yes.
A lot of joy.
Yes, I would guess. What can friends and classmates do to be supportive and inclusive of kids with different gender identities?
Try to use the right pronouns as often as you can.
Yeah, like if there's somebody who's a big part of my life, I would just memorize pronouns and be like that. So that's what I did with our classmate. I just memorized them. So
That's so awesome. How would that make you feel if somebody said, "You're really important to me, I'm gonna memorize your pronouns"? What would that feel like for you, Magnus?
Good.
when they told me that, I was like, well, they means multiple people. And then my friend was just like, well, it can be one. And I was like, oh, okay. And then just did it.
You were totally right. Or your friend was totally right. We call it singular they. And so if somebody left their phone on the table, but we didn't know whose it was, we would say, hey, somebody left their phone here.
Yeah.
I hope they come back to get it.
Yes.
So we actually use it every day.
How can grown-ups like parents and teachers support kids in understanding and respecting gender identities?
Try to remind other kids my pronouns.
Yeah, and my advice as a parent to other parents whose kids tell them who they really are is to first thank them and say, thank you so much for telling me. I love you so much. And also, it's just important to believe them. Believe people, whether it's your family or your friends or even strangers, when they tell you who they are.
Yeah, you have to respect your child. We have learned so much about you and your personal journey. I'm sure it will help our listeners better understand gender identity.
Is there anything else we didn't talk about today that you want our listeners to know?
I think I would add for your listeners that we talked a little bit about some of the meanies and people that say unkind things or choose to say unkind things, but there's a lot of people out there that care about you and respect you, like you were saying, Avisa, and are doing a lot of work to make sure that the systems that we have in place in our schools and our aftercare programs and even some of the activities that we do, that they're safe spaces and that we're making the world a place where everybody can be exactly who they are, whether they're cisgender or trans or non-binary or any other identity that's out there.
That's amazing. Thank you, Magnus and Megan, for visiting our class and having this important conversation with us today.
Thank you for having us. Don't give up on being your true self.
That reminds me of a quote from a really cool non-binary person named Alok Vaid-Menon, and I heard them say recently, they said, be your you, not their you. So somebody else might have an idea of who you are, and they want you to be a certain way, but you've got to be your you.
That's all for today's episode of Little Minds, Big Talks.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode as we continue our conversation about gender identity. If you want to write into our show and any questions, or get any advice, send an email to littlemindsbigtalks@gmail.com. And don't forget to be true to yourself and respectful to others' pronouns and gender identity.
Yes, and next week we have guests coming from our local high school. They will help us answer some questions from our listeners and wrap up this important topic of gender identity. You won't want to miss it.
Thanks for listening, and remember, little hearts can make a big difference, so spread kindness, stay curious, and strive to make the world a better place, one conversation at a time. Bye!